What is up, everybody? Back here for another video. The last couple of videos that I've done, I've been talking about some players I really like. I've been talking about, who I think is going to be the conference MVPs, some conference dark horses, just guys I really like in general. And I said, you know what? Let me just put these guys all together and find my final four guys who I think are going to be the Heisman finalists and then pick a winner. So that is exactly what we are going to be doing today. There are so many good guys from power conferences, mid majors, the SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, whatever you want. There's so many good players, but you're going to have to choose four. You're going to have to choose one Heisman winner. And so if I didn't put your favorite player, I'm sorry. There's obviously it's, a very selective list. I think there's so many players that could potentially be deserving, but I boiled it down to my four that I really do think are the most qualified. This list is hard, man. I feel like there's so many guys that are at least somewhat deserving. I really do. I think there's a lot of guys. I think there's probably a list of 10 to 15 guys that I wouldn't be that mad if you had on here. But I'm gonna go with my first one, and that's gonna be Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss. He returns after playing at Ole Miss last year. He played at Fair State at the D2 level before that, but he came to Ole Miss to become a backup. Ended up getting the starting spot over Austin Simmons, I believe, and just never slowed down. Was amazing. Made it all the way to the semifinal. Even when they lost their head coach, they still did well. Trinidad Chambliss is an unbelievable quarterback. He has a really good running back next to him as well. Had some pretty good weapons too. Um, but yeah, Chambliss is amazing. He returns another year. This Ole Miss team is going to be really good. I have him to finish, I think, fourth in the SEC. And I think he's going to be one of the biggest reasons of that. Him and Kawan Lacey are probably going to be 1A, 1B, but I think Chambliss is going to do a ton for this team. And I think he is deserving of being a Heisman finalist. Next up is going to be Jeremiah Smith. Now, he came into college 2 years ago. He was unbelievable throughout his freshman year, but his sophomore year, he took a bit of a step back. Now, of course, he was amazing, but didn't maybe take the sophomore year jump that some people expected. But going into this junior year, I'm so high on Jeremiah Smith. He's such a good player. He's so athletic, just a really good, complete wide receiver. He's on an Ohio State team that's going to compete for the national championship this year. I'm pretty confident in saying that. They have Julian Sayin as his quarterback, just a really good overall team. And I think Jeremiah Smith is the guy on that offense. Him and Sayin, but obviously him, being the target. I think that they're going to look for him so much, and I think he's obviously an amazing player. Ohio State's going to be great. I think Jeremiah Smith is very, very deserving of being a Heisman finalist. And I think if you were to tell me probably of these four guys, I think he's probably the most set in stone that the majority of people would have in theirs. Now, the next one up I have is a little bit controversial. I'm going to go with Josh Hoover from Indiana. Now, he did really well at TCU last year, and obviously last year's Heisman went to Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. Now, Josh Hoover takes over that spot, and it's going to be hard to fill Mendoza's shoes, but I think Hoover's a great player. He's slung the rock at TCU very, very well. Now he goes into Cignetti's system, and I think he's going to do well there. Now, the thing is, I'm super high on Indiana. I have them to win the Big Ten. I'm not posting my top 25 official predictions or my college football playoff stuff until the next couple of days. So I'm going to keep quiet how I think they're actually going to do in the grand scheme of the country. But I do think that Indiana as a whole is an amazing team. Like I said, I had them to win the Big Ten. And if they're going to win the Big Ten, a lot of it's going to be because of Josh Hoover. I think he's a great player. And I think, yeah, he's going to be a Heisman finalist this year. And then my fourth Heisman finalist is going to be Dante Moore from Oregon. Admittedly, I wasn't super high on him last year. I thought that he still has a lot to improve, but I really trust that he's actually going to get it done this year. I'm really high on this Oregon team as a whole. Honestly, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, that top three in the Big Ten is crazy. And I think each team deserves a Heisman candidate, honestly. Dante Moore is great. Yeah, like I said, I'm not personally super high on him, but I know how high people rate him. And I do think that, if he can have a good couple games early in the season to really get his stuff going, I think he's going to be great. I think this overall Oregon team is going to be great. And I think Dante Moore sneaks into that fourth spot in the Heisman finalist voting. But it's really tough to say who's actually going to win it because the question is, how much do you value stats? How much do you value the team and how much they win? How much do you value the system and which could potentially inflate stats? There's so many different variables. But personally, I'm not going to go for the guy that's just playing for the top team. I don't think that's fair. I really want to highlight who I think is going to be the best player in college football next year. And yeah. Maybe I have him fourth in the SEC. I don't care. I think that Ole Miss is going to have the Heisman next year in Trinidad Chambliss. What an unbelievable player. I think he's going to be very deserving of this Heisman Trophy. I already talked about him before, but went to Ferris State, went to Ole Miss, had so much adversity, being the backup, not really expected to do anything at Ole Miss, but ended up going out, becoming their best player, an absolute star in the SEC, and him returning for another year, the whole waiver thing, whether he could return or not, I think that's really going to push him a little bit. And this is a guy that really strives through adversity. I think that Trinidad Chambliss is going to be super, super good next year. Now, the only reason he may not be the number one guy is because there's going to be a lot of rushes, of course, because of how good Quan Lacey is. But he had to experience that last year, and he did just fine. Obviously, Lacey was still on the team as well last year, so I think he'll do just fine. And yeah, I'm really high on Chambliss next year. I think he's going to be the Heisman. So yeah, I'm sure this is a pretty controversial topic, so make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And stay tuned for this channel if you want to see more college sports, college football, or any sort of coverage. Stay tuned on the channel.